It's Flossy. It's Flossy. It's Flossy. It's Flossy. And the community goes.
Good evening. We return once again to the Hutton Orbital Radio Book Club's presentation of Tabitha Christie's new book, This Other Eden, the casebook of Miss Marbles and the story of the missing mugs, or purloined pottery. Persuaded to come out from behind her sofa and her pseudonym, Flossy has agreed to read another extract from her book. Flossy tells us that these readings have been kept short, partly because of the average attention span of a trucker, but mostly because she gets paid per episode. We recommend that you are seated as comfortably as possible when listening to this tale, because thereby hangs a tale. That's a tale such as an animal might have, not tale as a story, though I did mean story when I first said tale, okay? Look, let's ignore that. Moving on. The story so far. Miss Marbles, a lady of vintage years, was invited to be a judge at Hutton Orbital's annual fete. When fate, the other fate, not the annual fate, the one that's worse than death, oh, stop it, you know what I mean, intervened and...
A voice cried out, "They've gone! They've all gone! The mugs!" In the stunned silence that followed, I, Miss Marbles, wondered about three things. Who had taken the mugs? What did they want with them? And who had played that music? Never one to put myself forward, I stood outside the trophy room and peered through the forest of bodies that were crisscrossing the room. I couldn't work out how those at the back could see. Then I realised that they were using some kind of periscope. Ah, they do it with mirrors, I thought. What I could see, but only intermittently, was a large crate marked Hutton Mugs, Traditional Handle Orientation, with the lid hanging open, but no obvious signs of damage. Could this be an inside job? Surely no one who lived and worked at Hutton would be seduced by the promise of easy credits by selling mugs on the black market. A Hutton mug that can be bought is a useless mug, but people still fall for them, probably whilst injecting drain cleaner or some such. Whilst I stood there puzzling, from around the corner came a sound with which I recognised, that of a mop being waltzed down a corridor. Hurrying after the source of the sound, I saw a figure dressed all in white, holding in his hand a shaft that in other circumstances might have been mistaken for a quarterstaff, so mighty was it. I tried, but I couldn't make him stop. However, he did mop around me in a circle. "You know something, don't you?" I inquired. As he rotated past, he looked up briefly and stared into my eyes, but his face was completely deadpan. I couldn't read anything in his gaze. "You knew this was going to happen. That's why you gave me that invitation, didn't you?" Still nothing. This was getting silly, and I was getting dizzy. Who's responsible? Where should I start looking? Again, he said nothing, but paused his gyration for a second, and from under his skin-tight white spandex outfit, he produced what smelled like a cup of coffee. I really don't want to think about where he was keeping it before, especially as it was still warm. I took the cup, and indeed it did contain coffee, with foamy milk on the top, and what at first looked like a little chocolate, but a quick sniff showed that it was some kind of cereal. When I glanced up from the surface of the drink, I found myself alone in the corridor, aside from my milky beverage. What could this mean? Where was he trying to point me? What was the moving finger indicating? Was it the work of the infamous Macchiato brothers, right-hand men to the infamous Donna Chinacci? Could he be referring to the half-double decaffeinated half-calf with a twist of lemon revolutionary faction that can be found hiding in LS 340? Eventually, the penny dropped. Oh, that's better. I wondered what was chafing. Where was I? Oh yes, my razor-sharp mind had leapt straight to the answer. The coffee was obviously meant to be cappuccino, and as everyone knows, the drink was named after the robes worn by Capuchin monks. Where is the most notorious band of monks in the galaxy to be found? Yes, dear reader, Van Man and Star, home of the mad monks themselves. I was reminded of someone who used to live near me in the convent of St. Mary's in Meath installation. Eddie just called me Sister Josephine Gridler, who was asked to leave the convent after several unsavoury and unsettling events which resulted in the intervention of the convent's authorities, such as dealing onion head during matins, being the only bass in the choir, toilet seats being left up for no good reason, and a stash of money found in a secret hole in the wall behind a poster of a tennis player scratching her behind. But the worst of the 13 problems was when he foolishly decided that what was absolutely essential during a trip to the house of the local vicar was a collection of crows. That was his downfall. Yes, the murder of the vicarage was Eddie's nemesis. I realised with a jolt that the reason that I had not heard Eddie's name shouted from the Galnet news outlets for a very long time was not that he'd turned over a new leaf and gone straight, but that Galnet news was silent on all topics. Very convenient for Eddie, I thought. To follow this clue, I realised that it was time to pack up my knitting and take a trip on the bus to Van Man and Star. As I relaxed in the economy class cabin, I heard the pilot say, "We're taking an economical route today. First stop, Jackson's Lighthouse."
Jackson's Lighthouse. Jackson's Lighthouse.
What lies in store for Miss Marbles at Jackson's Lighthouse? Who really is Eddie Gridler, apart from a thinly disguised trucker? Are the monks mad enough to steal mugs right from under Alvin's sensitive but wet nose? Find out in the next extract, when Miss Marbles has the jump of her life and finds out what's worn under a monk's robe.
Flossy told you what to do.